I can understand spoken English, but I can't speak it. Have you ever said it to yourself? I have, in my childhood especially. But there are some things that you can do to improve your English speaking skills so that you will not only understand it but speak it as well. There are some problems basically that English learners have that prevent them from speaking fluent. Problem number 1, you have limited vocabulary. You know the word, but you don't know how to use it in the conversation. Problem number 3, you are afraid of grammar mistakes. And today I'd like to talk to you about how these problems can be solved. Before we get started, please click the like button. I really appreciate it. And subscribe to English with Palvasha if you haven't already. Every week I publish a new video to help you learn English. So please make sure to click the bell below this video. Now let's start with discussing the first problem. You have limited vocabulary. What do you need to do to solve it? When I was learning English, I've never learned single words. I always learned the whole phrases. Learn vocabulary in context. Find as many examples as you can of using that phrase. For example, you're learning the word hilarious in English. Check what it means and then look up some examples with this word. Every dictionary has a bunch of examples, and that's great. You can look them up and write that down. And you can see the same word in different combinations and different phrases as well. So that will be very easy for you to memorize that phrase, and practicing will definitely make you habitual of using that phrase, and that will automatically comes on your tongue. So when you learn new words, create your own sentences straight away. Even if you watch my videos getting a new word, just make a sentence right away under the comment section below. Or else you can send a message to your friends using that new word. But keep this thing in your mind that make up a new sentence with that specific word. So you're not only learning, but you're practicing and you're able to use English words. Another effective way to make your English speaking fluent is to ask yourself questions. You ask yourself, that triggers your mind, you think for that, and then you give yourself an answer. So when you ask yourself a question, it means that you compel yourself to think on that, and that becomes, when you think in English. If you start thinking in English, that will make your speaking skills even better. At first, it will be difficult to come up with the right words, but when your brain gets habitual of it, then it will be probably like a piece of cake for you guys. The thing that I used when I was learning English was talking to myself in the mirror, talking to myself in the washroom, talking to myself in English, anywhere, even in the kitchen, wherever I'm present, talking to myself in English and asking myself different questions. I realized that I spent hours watching English videos and I was listening to many different speakers and I could understand pretty well. But when it came to speaking, I felt like I don't know what to say. At that time, I can't remember the word. It's basically my childhood, what I'm talking about, that at that time I was unable to understand that word and I was unable to remember the words and my vocabulary was pretty limited. But the problem was I had no one to practice my English with. Let's suppose if this is the same problem with you guys. So the thing that I used was to ask myself questions. To conversate with yourself in English is something which will boost your confidence and make you a fluent speaker. You'll start thinking in English, you'll start questioning yourself, you'll start giving the answer of that same question, and then definitely you can easily be a fluent speaker in a few days or so. So what I actually do is that after watching a video lesson on YouTube, I retold everything with my own words. It means when you're watching any video, you can discuss that video with yourself and then ask myself questions as well. This is what I did. Maybe I look strange because literally I was talking to myself. This tip helped me a lot because I learned how to memorize words and use them in the sentences. Problem number 2. You know the word, but you're not sure how to use it in the conversation. You can also use all the tips that I told you right now, but another important tip is use monolingual dictionary, where all the definitions are in English, not in your native language. Without checking the translation, you'll be able to understand English words, and that will help you feel comfortable when using them in a natural conversation. Learn stock phrases. For example, could you tell me about it? Could you tell me about it? That's something you can say in many situations, and you will feel more confident in your speaking. Learn phrases that help you to start a conversation, to express agreement and disagreement. Learn commonly used questions. That's crucial for improving your speaking skills. Problem number 3. You're afraid of grammar mistakes. When the baby is born, he's learning a language by listening and understanding first, and then after a year or more, he starts speaking. He doesn't read the grammar rules, but he can speak without grammar mistakes. Why? Because he learns and adapts different speech patterns. Do not learn grammar rules, learn grammar patterns. Grammar patterns are the ways to describe how words are used in English. For example, the verb arrive is almost always used with the preposition at, but we can confuse it and change with the preposition to or on. I arrived in the airport yesterday. That's incorrect. I arrived at the airport yesterday. Right. He arrived on the meeting. That's incorrect. He arrived at the meeting. That's right. So when we speak about the country or city, we say arrive in. But when we are talking about the places like airports, hotels, railway stations and home, we say arrive at. If you learn the patterns, it will be very easier to use them. You can go to grammarpatterns.com, where you can find so many different patterns explained. Without speaking practice, it's impossible to speak. My dear friends, without speaking practice, you cannot be a fluent speaker. Mark my words, you need somebody to practice with, or else you need to start practicing with yourself, even in the mirror or alone when you are having time. If you are passionate about learning English, you need to give time. Invest time on yourself, almost probably half an hour a day, but you need to give yourself time so as to be a fluent speaker. So practice and repeat out loud all new phrases and the grammar patterns as well. When I was learning English grammar, it was so hard to understand conditionals. I spent hours reading grammar rules and writing tests, but it was still confusing and perplexing because we don't have the same rules in my native language. But when I started to repeat the pattern, I mastered the conditional sentences, and I don't need to think what verb forms to choose. It goes with the flow. If I won $1 million, I would buy a jet. If I won $1 million, I would buy a jet. If I won $1 million, I would buy a jet. So when you repeat grammar constructions, you memorize new patterns and you will use them in conversation. And you don't need to think, what tense should I use? Or what preposition should I say? You will speak naturally and fluently. I've told you about the problems that prevented students from speaking English fluently. So the major purpose of this video was that if you are going to repeat the patterns, if you're going to repeat the phrases, it will directly goes in your brain. Your brain will start, memorizing those words. So when you are talking fluently with your friends, with your family, you will start embedding those phrases which you have memorized already in your daily conversations. So my purpose of today's video was to just, start practicing and repeating. Even I'm going to definitely make some videos where I will be posting some phrases which you can keep on repeating, and that will be very helpful for you to learn those specific phrases. So my purpose is not to learn a single word. Learn a phrase. Memorize a phrase that will help you in a longer run. I hope this video was useful for you all, my dear friends. If you can understand English but you can't speak, use my tips to improve your speaking skills and become a great English speaker. And if you like this video and you want more videos like this, click the subscribe button below and the bell, because every week I make video lessons for you to empower you, to inspire you to learn English and upgrade your level. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more useful content with English with Palva Show.